Welcome to the second episode of Catching Flights with Ranvir. And for this episode of a brand new podcast, I have a very special guest with me all the way from Taipei, Taiwan. It is civil engineer, entrepreneur Flora Lin. How are you today, Flora?
Hi everyone, and how are you, Ranvir? I'm good.
I'm really well too. Thank you so much for coming on the show and agreeing to do this with me. I really appreciate it.
Me too.
Yeah, so, I obviously know you really well.
hmm
But I'm pretty sure that those who are listening and the general audience may not. So
Okay.
why don't we start off the show a little bit by getting to know a little bit more about who you are? Who is Flora Lin?
Well, I'm a civil engineer by day and a esoteric nerd by night. I do my own research and stuff, and I also own a company called Wildflower Consulting, and
Hmm.
I get contracts from time to time. So I'm currently in between contracts at the moment. So I just got my first contract recently, like in May when I started my company too. So yeah, I'm brand new to the business world.
Yeah, that's really exciting. Um, one thing that I'm curious about, right, is civil engineering because I know that engineering in general comprises of many different, fields,
Yes,
mechanical,
yes.
chemical, whatever, right?
hmm
So, so what is civil engineering? Like, what do civil engineers do?
Well, civil engineers in general, we build things you can see on the roads. Skyscrapers, bridges, underground tunnels, for the trains, yeah, all sorts of stuff that you can think of where people kind of like live or, work at. Um, Pretty much
Mm.
we're
Yeah,
responsible for it.
so it's kind of like urban planning and kind of, just infrastructural
Yeah, infrastructural stuff.
engineering.
Yes, exactly. So that's kind
Okay.
of what I'm responsible for. Yeah.
Like, Taipei is such an incredible city. It's built up to be so modern and so cool. Obviously, Taipei 101 we have over there as well. So,
Exactly.
civil engineers must be dime a dozen over there, and obviously they're very good at what they do. So I'm assuming you're going to be one of the bunch, no? Fair to say or not?
uh, well, I don't know. Maybe, maybe not.
Yeah, maybe not.
hmm
Okay.
hmm
Well, so one thing I want to know a little bit more about you is your interest in engineering,
Yes.
right? Because engineering is kind of a male-dominated field.
Yeah.
When you hear engineers, 90% of those studying it or doing it would be male,
Yes.
right? So how did you get interested in it and what keeps you going?
Well, it was just purely by accident, but I think engineering in general is quite, well, back in the days when I was doing university, our lecturers always tell us, oh, it's very innovative and very like, you know, challenging. So I like challenges in general. So I thought, oh, that was like a really good, career to go into,
Hmm.
and I'll never get bored
Okay.
because I get bored so easily. So engineering in general is challenging and keeps me, um, interested in a lot of stuff. So for me right now, I can vouch for that. The fact that there's a lot to learn. Like even after 9 years of being in the field, I'm still learning and still going.
Hmm.
So that's something I'm happy about.
I love that mindset. I
Yeah,
love that mindset, that lifelong learning mindset. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's so key,
yes,
right? Because I feel like the moment you stop learning, you stop growing,
exactly.
you stop getting at what you're doing, you stop getting better at upskilling, you lose motivation. That's kind of how it feels for me if I turn off that mindset, like, okay, every day is a new day and I want to learn something new. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, for me, I think it's important to have some input. So reading is my input to gain more knowledge. So when
Mm.
there are circumstances where I need to output or give information or advice, that's when I can give more. So if I'm not putting in enough, then it's hard to give out. So I think it's constant. It's an important thing to always constantly upgrading yourself, learning new things, so that you're updated with your views and perspectives, and then you can offer better advice in the future. for people that actually need your help. Yeah, so I think it's a
Mm,
good thing to keep up with all the
right.
time.
So you think that it also translates to, your professional day-to-day life, like, reading and having these inputs
Yeah,
through
exactly.
reading.
And
And this, okay.
obviously, I talked about esoteric stuff at the very beginning, right? So it actually
Hmm.
helps me. Like recently, my friend had relationship issues. She wants to know, what should I do in these circumstances, and I explained to her, this is how I learned in the spiritual realm, and this is how I think you should approach your life, and how you approach relationship. And she's like, "Oh, I never thought about it this way. That's a very good approach." And so I think there are a lot of things that you learn, but then you don't know the application until circumstances brings it to you, and then you realize, oh, it's actually quite useful to people, and it's good to just brush up on some
Hmm.
knowledge from time to time.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
interesting,
yeah,
interesting point.
yeah.
Mm.
Exactly. It's probably the same
So,
as your
yeah.
travels as well. So I'm sure like you gain a lot of like insights when you're traveling, learn new cultures, and then perspective wise. Yeah. What are your thoughts?
Um, I think, well, traveling is a little bit different because, I think traveling is the complete opposite of that because you don't read, right? I hate looking at a guidebook or looking at, what is a traditional thing written there. I want to go to a place, I want to immerse myself in the culture, and I want to, um, feel the essence of the city while I'm there by getting involved in what's going on in the day to day, right? I'll do my best to avoid the tourist traps. Like I'll do my best to just go with the flow, right? I'll wake up 9 a.m., 10 a.m. being like, okay, now what do I want to do today? Like there are a few things that look pretty cool. Let me go here, let me go here. And then I realize, oh, wait a minute, like I like this museum a little bit more. So maybe I'm going to stay here and I'll skip that part.
Hmm.
So, I figure it out, I go with the flow. And I think, yeah, like when it comes to travel, the immersive aspect is the most important thing. Most people who travel today, I feel like they sometimes get too caught up in, well, obviously tourist traps, but also like, for example, the UNESCO World Heritage sites, which don't get me wrong, some of them are great, but
Right.
you know, like at the other times, maybe it's just better to go to the side of the river, let's say, if the country has a river, go to the side of the river and just interact with locals.
Hmm.
You'll learn much more about the city and about the people and about the culture doing that
Yeah.
than you would visiting some UNESCO heritage site just because they submitted a bunch of paperwork. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. But I mean,
So I think with travel, it's
Instagram
about
worthy
immersion.
photos are still quite important, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Well, there's gotta be a balance, right? You gotta
Mm.
have some for the gram and you gotta have some for your own life satisfaction
Yeah.
as well.
Exactly.
You know,
And
so
yeah.
definitely I try to do that. As you know, I've got my Instagram travel page, so clearly there's good content on that, I
Yes.
hope.
Hmm.
So, you gotta, I mean, clearly I prioritize that too, but yeah,
Yes.
it's gotta be a balance. You're right.
That's good. Yeah. For me, I think like when I travel, I realize how how I get to see how people live their lives. And say Muslims,
Hmm.
they have like Friday as their starting day for the weekend. And so you kind of see, okay, this is how people work. Like weekends are not necessarily on Saturdays and Sundays. So like
Yes.
there are things that you are so ingrained, like this indoctrinated, or to think that this is your norm, but it's actually not a norm for other people. And then you kind
Hmm.
of like apply that to your life and see, okay, there are a lot of things that you can do a different way, but also achieve the same, you know, outcome. Like you can have like Friday and Saturday for holidays, and then Sunday you still work. Like, there's still alternative ways that you can do certain things to help you achieve certain things, without having to be too rigid um, in life.
Yeah. So let me throw it back to you a little
Okay.
bit, and I wanna ask you a slightly inspirational question,
Okay.
if I may,
No
right?
problem.
So you're a woman in engineering,
Yes.
right? And engineering is a male-dominated field stereotypically,
Mm-hmm.
right? So as a woman in engineering, what would you say to other women who are thinking about joining? Why should there be more women in engineering? What's in it for you?
Well, I think in general it's challenging and fun. You never get bored. Like certain jobs in general, it's
Hmm.
monotonous. So over time, you've learned the tricks of the trade. You get bored because there's not a lot of like new variations from time to time. Like say accounting, it's going to be like pretty much the same thing over and over every day. But for engineering in general, if you're very good at learning new skills and acquiring new skills, you're able to work in several departments of engineering. Say,
Right.
like you can work in procurement, you can work in the site stuff, or you can work on the paperwork. But so it's quite broad, but it's still in engineering and civil engineering in general. So it's quite dynamic and challenging in that sense.
Hmm.
And also, I think the money side of it, actually, the starting salary is going to be still way better than, say, other industries. So I
Yeah, I
think,
was just gonna say
yeah.
the most important question, what's the money like?
Well, I must say,
Show me the
to
money.
begin with,
No,
it
no.
didn't start so
Yeah.
well. Obviously, in Taiwan, we're we don't have a great starting salary even for engineers. But as you
Okay.
work your way up with experience, acquiring extra experience over time, then
Hmm.
you're more likely to ask for what you want. But also, there's a ceiling to it because this is just the work environment here, so you don't really get to push it that much. So if you ask for more, they'll tell you, okay, well, this is not the industry standard. That's not how
Right.
it's done. But I think it'll be different if you work with a foreign company that has a Taiwanese branch here. So I think
Okay.
for that you'll be able to like probably
Yeah.
move your ceiling a bit higher. Um, but also there's still quite
Yeah.
limitations to it. Obviously, the expectation is that you're paid low because there's a lot of competitions. There are a lot of people in Taiwan, so you can't push the salary up a bit too much. So that's why I'm doing contracting. So apart from the normal like employee, like contracting offers more flexibility to work,
Hmm.
and also there's not much of a ceiling to it as long as you're able to
Right.
do your work and deliver
Right.
your
Because you get to
results.
decide for yourself, right? You get to choose your contracts, you get to decide your pay.
Yes.
It it's basically entrepreneurship, right? That's what Wildflower,
Yes,
as you were saying, is about.
exactly.
Yeah.
But contracting also is, obviously you've got to open up your own business, and then obviously endure the
Right.
risk of not having contracts for a while if
Hmm.
the project gets finished early, like I did for my first project, where supposedly I was contracted for 5 months, but then the project went so well that it finished in 3 months. So it was like, oh,
Oh,
so
wow.
between that, then 2 months you've got to fend for yourself for a bit to get your next contract. So that's a bit nerve wracking from time to time. But obviously, I've got to get
Hmm.
used to it. Yeah, and I'm trying to
Yeah.
learn my ropes.
Yeah. So what I kind of take away from what you were saying is that, there's definitely a a clear bright side and a clear dark side, right? The bright side is that if you get into this engineering field, the opportunities are endless,
Mm-hmm.
right? But the dark side of it is that when you reach that point where you've, hit that ceiling in the corporate world,
Yes,
right? You got to get out there and start your own if you want to get more money, if that's your
exactly.
goal in life to get. So and then that runs its own risks, as you said, of, maybe long, long periods of time with no contracts.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm curious to know if that's like a trade-off that many would consider, in your opinion.
Well, I
You
don't
know,
think it's
what do you
an
think?
easy path to actually choose, because obviously stability is like the key for a lot of people.
Right.
Like obviously, I currently don't have a family to feed. Like I don't have, kids and stuff. So I can risk
Right.
that. But I'm sure that people with families to support having a stable job, being employed for long-term contract, not contracts, I mean long-term as a normal permanent, in a normal permanent position is quite important
Hmm.
because then you don't have to like worry about, okay, where's my, how am I going to get paid next month? That's
Yeah.
quite important. Yeah. And so to be able to like obviously achieve a better ceiling, like obviously not only just to stay in Taiwan, like for people that want to, move forward, then you can go to a different city to acquire jobs elsewhere. Then you might be able to improve the salary. Like engineering in general is required everywhere. So it's not hard for you to find a job. It's how willing you're able to, like how flexible you are to move to a different city and how willing you are to learn new things and be immersed in a different culture. That's very, it's not always
Yeah.
easy for people. Yeah.
Yeah, every country around the world wants to build and grow. And as you mentioned, civil engineering is all about infrastructure, urbanization, building what we see and live and utilize for our day-to-day lives. So
Mm-hmm.
there's never going to be a lack of demand for that, as you said. So I think, from what I can tell, like the key takeaway, and it really matches my mantra as well, right,
Mm-hmm.
is know your worth,
Yes.
right? Know what you're worth. If you think you're really, really good, you have skills that other people don't have, be it, multilingual,
Mm-hmm.
very good English for
Mm-hmm.
someone who lives in an Asian country in like Taiwan, Thailand, for example, we have that massive advantage,
Mm-hmm.
right? Know your worth and take more,
Exactly.
and if people are not going to give you what you think you deserve, it's their problem, right?
Exactly.
And you should walk away. That's really what I believe too. And I might be saying this from a position of privilege, right? Like I don't have to worry about where the next, paycheck for rent is going to come or
Yes.
how I'm going to put food in my mouth every month. So I
Mm-hmm.
understand that and I acknowledge that. But given the opportunities that I do have and the freedom that I do have to have this attitude, I'm really lucky. But at the same time, I want to use that privilege for the right thing to advance, my best interests and to do what's right for me.
Yeah.
Just to
Yeah.
pivot a little bit,
Yes.
you asked me about travel,
Mm-hmm.
and one thing that I want to know about you, because I got to learn this about you very recently, is that you visited the Solomon Islands.
Yes.
Now, why this is interesting for me is that I love these kind of obscure places to travel,
Mm-hmm.
right? Anybody who knows me very well will know that I've not been to Italy, United States, Canada,
Yes.
United
The
Kingdom, all of
common
this stuff. Not
places.
interested. Yeah, not interested in that. Solomon Islands, however, we are vibing that.
Right.
I'm vibing
Oh,
that.
you're vibing that.
So you got to tell me about Solomon Islands because now I'm so excited. I want to
Well,
plan
what
a
do you
trip
want
in
to know about
earnest.
it?
How was it? What did you do? What did you see? Tell me about it.
Oh, well, Solomon was basically for me a business trip. So I went there because
Okay.
at my first job, my boss wanted to develop. Obviously, he wanted to bid for the projects from the Asian Development Bank, which is located in the Philippines. And they
Okay.
have this project in the Solomon Islands. And so we have to do our proposal regarding building new reservoirs, not really reservoir, like not big, huge ones, like smaller reservoirs for them in Solomon Islands. So for us, we traveled to Solomon Islands to take pics, to research the land and get to know, what the culture is like there to write a good proposal and stuff. So
So tell me about the views and the food. Will I be able to, see some really nice sights? Are there nice viewpoints? Is it a great place to go snorkeling? And what about the food? I'd love to know if the food is any different from, what maybe we're standard used to.
well, it's just normal food. I think it's just a lot of fish and a lot of like
Right. Well, of course. Yeah.
but also like because we were only in the city, which is um, the city's name is called Honiara,
Okay.
So they only have one huge road that goes from one end of the island to the other
Right.
side, but they also have like other small islands on the outskirts.
Right.
But we didn't have that much time to go around it. But I've heard a lot of beautiful, like great things about it, and it's really beautiful. But Honiara in general is not like the cleanest place in general, but it's like people are
Right.
nice. Obviously I was a bit afraid at first that we'll get robbed because of how unsafe it is. But so far it was good in the
Right.
city.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, perception is everything. These islands, as you said, if the ADB is involved in investments over there, clearly they need that help to learn and to grow. And I think that once more people travel, perception will change.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure there must be some nice people out there, and it won't be so scary anymore if more people are able to go, and if more people are able to learn more about this place and
Yeah.
put it up on social media, right?
Yeah.
And especially people like me, people who are out there looking to um looking for an adventure, looking to immerse themselves, just be open-minded and learn. And I think Solomon Islands is just one example of many other, let's say tiny countries or obscure destinations that are maybe not on the mainstream that once you visit and once you learn about and bring attention to, there's really gems upon gems to discover
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
in these
I
beautiful
I wouldn't mind
countries.
going back. It's quite, it's interesting. People speak English. It's not difficult to
Mm,
communicate with
okay,
them.
that
So
helps.
yeah, yeah. And they
Yeah,
have a
that
really
helps.
small airport, like international airport, like but really small. Like you can actually see what's around it. There's gas stations nearby. Just very like chilled and relaxed. It doesn't even look like an
Cool.
international airport. So yeah,
Okay. Well, I hope that I'll be able to go and check it out very soon.
yeah,
But
for
I'm
sure.
super interested and excited to hear about that. And we're definitely gonna have to talk more about it if I actually do decide to go at some point.
No
So
problem.
yeah.
I
But
think it's great.
before I wrap up my show,
Mm-hmm.
I would like to ask you if there's anything that you wanted to ask me.
Right. Well, let me think. Well, if this is the end of your life and you need to, uh, you only get to keep three things that you can pass down to someone else in the future. Everything's
Hmm.
erased. What would you pass down to them?
Okay. And like, is it just material things you mean,
Or just
or
anything like
like?
advice, lesson learned
Okay.
from
Okay.
your life.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm only 24 going on 25, so I don't want to sound like someone who's lived a very
But whatever
long
you've
and
learned for up until
yeah, no, no,
now.
I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot, and I've definitely lived a really great life, no doubt about that.
Hmm.
I'm very satisfied and fulfilled, so for sure, happy to share.
Hmm.
Um, I think the first lesson that I would tell anybody and everybody, anyways, alive or dead, right, is just go for it.
Hmm.
You know, if you don't get started on anything, work, life, career, relationship, right? You don't want to ask that girl out. You don't want to change your job. You don't want to start your own business. You're never going to know, right? You'll always be at zero all your life. If you get started, you'll at least be at one, two, three, right? You'll be able to crawl, then you'll be able to walk, then you'll be able to run, and eventually you'll sprint and you'll cruise all the way,
Hmm.
right? Just get started. No matter what it is you're thinking of, just do it. That's lesson number one.
Okay.
Lesson number two, I would probably, wow, one thing that my grade six teacher told me um, was if something is worth doing, it's worth doing well.
Hmm.
So that's also a mantra that is very, very, I keep it very close to me and I think about that every single day,
That's
right?
great.
It's do things with a purpose, right? If something's worth doing, it's worth doing well. And, you know, just give it your all. Show up, be consistent, work hard, be present,
Hmm.
be open-minded, be willing to learn.
Hmm.
And that will lead to harmony and fulfillment for you.
Hmm.
And the third thing, okay, let me pick something material this time. I would I'd probably pass down I'd probably pass down something that meant a lot to me. So maybe my collection of passports.
Oh, okay. Cool.
I would,
Sounds good.
because I actually keep all of my passports because I love to see the stamps. Sometimes I like to go back and look at the stamps of the countries that I visited. So
Hmm.
I would definitely, pass those down and have that
Wherever,
serve
yeah,
as
yeah. A
like
souvenir to
as an
remember who
inspiration,
you
like for
are.
my. Exactly, but no, specifically like for family members, like for
Hmm.
my kids, my grandkids, their grandkids. I
Right.
wanted to serve as an inspiration that, their dad or their granddad or their great granddad was someone who liked to explore, someone who liked to live life.
Hmm.
And I want that to be the way I'm remembered. So I think that would be the three things.
Oh,
Yeah, for
awesome.
myself.
Sounds great.
Yeah. So, well, I love that question. That's a very cool question. And that sets the bar for all of the future guests.
Oh,
So
shoot.
whoever's gonna come on the show, you gotta live up to Flora's
Oh,
question.
wow. Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah. So with that, I want to thank you again
Yes.
very, very much for
Thank
coming on my
you.
show. I really appreciate you making the time.
Yeah,
I've
thank
learned a
you
lot
for
today.
inviting me. That was great.
Yeah, and hope to see Wildflower growing. Hope to see you growing. I'm really excited to see what's next for you, and maybe we'll definitely have a chat again at some
Okay.
point, and do another podcast together and see where you are and where the business is at.
Okay, no
Would love to hear
problem.
more.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah. So thank you again, Flora. Have a great one.